This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news, and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Georgia Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, you picked a great day to tune in to the Georgia Farm Monitor. As always, cannot thank you enough for having us in your living room, breakfast room, maybe even the kitchen, wherever you're watching us. Thanks so much for doing so. I'm Ray DeLessio.
And I'm Kenny Bergamy. Yeah, we got a lot of great features to get to today. Coming up on the program, the final tally is in on the amount of monetary damages resulting from the avian flu outbreak in the Midwest. And suffice it to say, it's pretty bad. Also on the show, with Georgia becoming the Napa Valley of the South, we travel to Pelham, Georgia, and introduce you to a couple who's hoping to cash in on what they say is their passion.
And then later, like it or not, El Nino's back, and this time he is packing one heck of a punch. What it means for you, the producer, during fall and winter harvest. All this and more starting right now on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Well, every year the Georgia Farm Bureau is proud to honor an individual with the organization's Commodity Award. The award is given to recognize the years of service and dedication to Georgia agriculture. This year, GFB honored UGA Extension Ag economist Dr. John McKissick. The Monitor's Mark Wildman has the report.
Dr. John McKissick has devoted his entire life and career to Georgia agriculture. He was born into a Walton County farm family on December 7, 1952, and ever since he has been working to advance the industry he loves.
Well, ag's meant everything to me, really. I mean, I grew up on a farm. I was a later farm owner. My show cows put me through college, bought my first cars, both beef cattle and dairy cattle. I'm a two-time Master 4-H, Master 4-H'er and a third generation Master 4-H'er. So 4-H runs deep in our family, and that was all farm related and agricultural related.
As the years went by, he knew working on the farm was not where his calling was, but he wanted to contribute in some way.
I actually was started in ag education. I've always thought about being an ag educator in some regard. Then I took an economics course and kind of fell in love with economics, and particularly the agricultural applied part of economics.
After receiving undergraduate and graduate degrees from UGA, he stayed with the university to begin his professional life.
Roughly 40 years ago, I started as an extension economist, developing the marketing programs, producer marketing programs in livestock and field crop economics. After a couple of years, my position was split and I was moved to the campus here at Athens, which put me a little bit closer to home. In fact, it put me in an office about one office away from where I had been a graduate student. So I always told people I didn't get too far from home.
Throughout his career, he has devoted himself to helping farm families stay in business through economics and has seen many changes over the years.
Going from a pencil and paper and working out a budget for an operation, it was once a very time-consuming task, very necessary task, but now today we've got access to immediate information right out of the fields as far as yields, as far as what we need to do. We can make management decisions on the fly based on the current market prices, up-to-date market prices. So the information transformation, I think, in agriculture has been tremendous during that time period.
Dr. McKissick has received numerous awards throughout the decades for his work in agriculture. He has been married to his wife Nancy for 43 years. They have 2 children and 2 grandchildren, and he has been devoted to Watkinsville First United Methodist Church for over 25 years. Georgia Farm Bureau is proud to honor Dr. McKissick with the 2015 Commodity Award.
Farm Bureau has always been a constant in our farm family. I've done hundreds and hundreds of meetings with Farm Bureau over the years, so when I got the call, I really didn't know what to say. It's a very humbling experience that coming from this organization in particular and this group, I really can't find the words to express my gratitude for that and recognition of what little part I've played in helping agriculture grow in our state.
Again, that was Mark Wildman reporting. Well, any questions as to why Georgia officials are ramping up avian flu precautions? All one needs to do is look at the recent numbers from the state of Iowa. $1.2 billion. That's how much of an economic hit the state took following the death of more than 30 million hens and around 1.5 million turkeys as a result of an AI outbreak this past spring. Additionally, over 8,400 jobs were lost, many of which will never be recovered. Nationwide, about 50 million birds were lost because of the spring outbreak. Good news for the Georgia cotton industry in the form of $600,000 in research money. The Georgia Cotton Commission approved its annual budget at a recent meeting. Some of the research projects are a continuation of GCC yearly support for the UGA cotton team, on-farm variety testing, PGR management research, and irrigation research.
Basically what our goals are is to look for ways through research that we can make our farmers more efficient, help them reduce cost, and be better stewards of the environment. We have excellent researchers here, but the most important thing about our research program is getting those findings out to the farmers.
Now, meantime, while prices have remained high for pecan producers, wet weather and disease have cut into the yields over the past couple of years.
Now, Damon Jones tells us how this year's crop is shaping up and the things producers need to be on the lookout for.
It's no secret that Georgia has been the top pecan producing state over the past few years, reaching more than 100 million pounds back in 2012. With that kind of market impact, events like this field day in Baxley are vital as it gives growers an update on the industry as well as tips on how to manage their orchard. And while the proper fungicide program is important, there are other things that can be done to minimize disease.
Variety selection, pruning, hedging, opening up the orchard, taking vegetation out from around the edges of the orchard to get better airflow. All those things reduce scab pressure.
That's been a major problem for producers over the past couple of years, as heavy rains during the growing season have washed away their fungicide. That means this year growers are spending more money to make sure their yields are back to normal.
Crop looks pretty good. I think our growers were on top of scab this year. We spent a lot of money. We sprayed a lot of fungicide this year, probably more than we needed to. But growers were kind of scared because they've had losses the last 2 years. But I think overall we've got a decent crop. We won't lose as many to scab this year, and I think unless we have a real problem here, I think we should have a decent crop coming into harvest.
Despite the few hiccups, pecans remain one of the fastest growing crops in the agricultural industry, largely because the prices have remained high. And it's not just one type of farmer looking to get into the business.
We've definitely seen more people jumping into the pecan industry recently. And they may be jumping into it on a small scale and up on a larger scale of thousands of acres. But there's a lot of new interest from individuals, like I say, on a very small scale, and then from investment groups looking at very large acreage of pecans.
And the prices have remained steady because of the demands overseas, especially in China. It's a market that isn't likely to dry up anytime soon.
Yeah, most of the market for pecans, what's really driving the pecan market right now is the export market. And that continues to look really good. We really, unless something were to happen politically, we don't see anything really hurting that at this point.
And even better news is that domestic consumption is also on the rise, a trend the industry has been waiting a long time for. And that's been pretty evident recently as both state and national commissions have placed an emphasis on getting their message out to the public.
Yes, marketing is a big focus of certainly the Georgia Pecan Commodity Commission and the pecan industry in general. The Georgia Commission is indeed working on a lot of marketing areas and helping with that. The Georgia Pecan Growers Association is doing work there too, and also the movement for the federal marketing order for pecans is aimed at helping to increase that domestic consumption.
Reporting from Baxley, I'm Damon Jones for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
All right, still to come on the Monitor, El Nino 2015. Some are calling it the Godzilla of all storms. A bit later, we'll hear from a UGA climatologist on what this means for the fall and winter harvest.
But first, when the show continues, see how one couple's passion for wine resulted in what they hope will be a legacy for their children. Stay tuned.
You know, it's an incredible craft. You get to really be a part of the history for what's down here. You know, there's that element to it, but at the same time, you get to do work that nobody has seen in 100 years. You get to do some really fancy art stuff, but the awesome thing about it is that you actually get to do something that works in the modern day, that actually helps your community. I got a call that the last gentleman that was doing it finally got out of the business, and there were a lot of people kind of left in a lurch. They didn't know he was retiring, and so I kind of had a flood come to the shop and very quickly had to adapt and start hammering peanut blades. In order to actually manipulate material, and there's a difference, if you grind a peanut blade, because of the way that you have to grind it, you lose so much material as to make it kind of pointless. But when we do the process, we actually bring these blades up to 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a bright orange. You don't want to lick it. And then it goes under a tremendous hammer, and it actually beats the bevel back into the blade, so you don't lose any material, you simply reform the metal. You know, when you've got a blade that you can save so much money on that's going to work just as good, if not better than the new one, why wouldn't you do it? You know, the blade thing, the sharpening blades has not been a big deal in about 20 years, and so it's kind of gotten out of the mainstream. But being able to provide a service that saves everybody money, that actually makes a product that you'd have to throw away in the scrap pile usable again, sometimes 2 and 3 times, that's kind of a win-win situation. The trick is I have to listen to what my farmers tell me, and especially the guys that have been doing it for 50 and 60 years. And a forged blade cuts better than a new blade. That is what they all tell me. I've never pulled one. I can't tell you if that's true or not, but I've got a lot of people down here that believe in that, and they come and do business with me. The internet has allowed a lot of us craftsmen to actually reach out and show this craft to other people that would otherwise have never seen it. And the internet and YouTube have been a powerful tool for that to happen. I've got over 1.5 million hits on my YouTube channel. I get a ton of mail from all around the world. And when I say all around the world, I mean, I'll have a guy in Japan, Australia. I mean, it's insane the number of people that actually watch this stuff and have an interest in it. I mean, you're setting things on fire and crushing it. How is that not interesting?
All right, and we welcome you back to the Georgia Farm Monitor. Over the last few years here at the Monitor, we've reported on the many vineyards that are beginning to pop up all across Georgia.
Yeah, the latest startup is the dream of Clayton Moss, farm raised in Mitchell County and who returned to his roots to start his own brand of farming.
Just outside Camilla on State Highway 112 in southwest Georgia, you can find Hawthorne Farms, a third-generation family farm that focuses on row crops like cotton, peanuts, and corn. Clayton Moss told us that in the spring of 2014, adjacent to the farms, he planted something uniquely different for the area.
Well, originally this was in pine trees that got infested with beetles, and so we were looking for alternative crops. And we looked at olives, blueberries, and these wine grapes in particular. And I've had a passion for wine, and we just thought we'd make a go of it.
The concept of vineyards and winery is the result of years of postgraduate southern wine grape study at the University of Kentucky.
We have our white grape is called a Blanc du Bois. It's actually native to the area. They were born and bred back in the early 80s in Tallahassee and Leesburg, Florida. So we kind of brought them home. And then we have 2 reds, a Lamanto grape and a Lanois grape.
Moss said the Farmer's Daughter Winery was completed earlier this year, and they'll be ready to press and produce their first bottles in early 2016.
It's a little bit of a moving target, especially with a young vineyard. We're hoping spring 2016 is when we'll have our first whites available, and our reds, of course, take a little bit longer, so that may be the summertime before the reds are available. But 2016 is what we're shooting for.
Clayton's wife, Renee, is handling sales and marketing. We ask her how the branding of Farmer's Daughter came to be.
We wanted to leave something for our children, and I think Clayton's hope was that our son would be interested in cotton at some point, and our daughter would be interested in wine and wine grapes. And who knows if that's what the future holds. But I think the vision really was to create something that each of them could have and call their own, so that long after we're gone, there's something to provide for them and their families and their futures.
The Mosses are members of the Vineyard and Winery Association of West Georgia and Georgia wine producers. Clayton told us he'll also be providing some services to South Georgia farmers.
For the first few years, we definitely have custom crush availability for other fruit growers in the area that are interested in making wine out of their products, blueberries, peaches, strawberries, you name it. We have the capacity to fill those needs.
Our plan is to open our tasting room in downtown Thomasville when we have product available to sell. So I'd say probably sometime next summer, summer of 2016, we would be opening a tasting room. So our goal is to find a space that is historic and do some renovation and create a really comfortable atmosphere.
You can learn more about this new operation by clicking on the website, farmersdaughtervineyards.com.
Well, just a reminder, if you missed any part of the story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel. That's the Georgia Farm Monitor. Once there, you can browse the archive of stories dating as far back as 2009.
And of course, once you're done watching all those informative stories, just keep on clicking and like the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page we have set up for you. If you have a story idea or if you just want to leave us a comment or suggestion, feel free, send us a message either on Facebook or at the address listed below. That is news@farm-monitor.com. Up next, why this year's El Nino could be one of the strongest ever and how it may or may not affect the fall and winter harvest. Stay tuned. We're back right after this.
It's a lively auction with rapid-fire energy and dollars spent with a slight movement of the hand. This typically is reserved for when property is on the selling block. But here the bidding is open for what grows on prized land. What'll you give me for this bale?
4 now, 5, 5 to 5, 34 to 5 now, 6. 35.
This is the surplus hay auction at the UT Ag Research Center in Greenville, where farmers can stock up on forage. Leaders expect to sell more than 1,000 of these large bales.
So these round bales that we see behind us that are going to average somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 pounds apiece, these are almost predominantly bought by our cattle producers to feed cattle.
Early summer, where we didn't have any rain, the hay did not grow, so I'm here hopefully to buy, around 30 bales of hay to try to make it through the rest of the year.
Before the sale, producers inspect the hay and decide if they want to bid on it. Greene is Tennessee's top cattle county, and the auction helps producers pad their supply with high-quality fescue. Farmers get what they need, and the money generated from the auction goes back to the center.
UT's Institute of Agriculture conducts forage variety tests at several of its ag research centers statewide. The goal is to collect information on yields, heat, cold, and drought tolerance, and plant diseases.
We may have 15 different varieties in that trial, and there'll be 1 or 2 or 3 varieties that really perform well in our climate, specific climate here in Greene County. If you take those same varieties, those 15 varieties, and you test them in Milan, those 3 may not come out on top.
That's what brings Joe Holt back each year to the auction. He buys hundreds of bales here and likes the forage grown in the fields of the Greenville Ag Research Center.
I get good quality hay. It's very convenient to get the hay here. It's all pretty much stored in the dry, net wrapped, so when they load it, you get home with all of it.
Ideally, producers could get by with growing their own forage and having enough green grass from the warm weather months to feed animals in winter. But just in case they come up short on their hay supply, that's where this auction comes in. And most farmers could use a little extra something in the barn as insurance.
Sold them $57.
This is Chuck Denny reporting.
Thank you, Chuck, and welcome back to the Georgia Farm Monitor. Do want to remind you about all the great deals and discounts that go along with being a Georgia Farm Bureau member. Not only is it cheap at just $25 a year, which amounts to 48 cents a week, it's also available to non-farmers and non-Farm Bureau insurance holders. To sign up and see all the great deals and benefits, log on to the web address you see there. That is gfb.org. Brace yourself. Godzilla is coming. That's how one climatologist at NASA described El Nino 2015.
Yeah, some even saying this year's El Nino may be the worst since record keeping began way back in 1950. For more on El Nino and how it could affect the fall and winter harvest, the Monitor sought out the expertise of UGA agricultural climatologist Pam Knox.
You know, El Nino is when you have unusually warm water in the eastern Pacific Ocean off the coast of Peru and Ecuador. And when you look at it from a global standpoint, it's really not that far from the southeast. And so it's like putting a rock into a river. It shifts the patterns of winds around, and it can cause changes in the climate here in Georgia and in the southeast. And it doesn't have a lot of effect in the summer, but one thing we do know is that when we have an El Nino, especially if it's a pretty strong one, we tend to have a dry period later in the summer. And we have in fact seen that this year. We've had some areas in southern Georgia in particular develop abnormally dry conditions and drought, and that spread up to central Georgia as well. Right now, I think the worst part of the drought is just a little south of Augusta, Screven County and places like that. And that drought actually expanded southward from the Carolinas where they've had more trouble. But that is not unexpected because of the status of El Nino. And El Nino years also tend to be years when we don't have a lot of tropical storm activity. That's certainly been the case this year. We are now starting to see some storms, but it's August, it's the peak season, so we would expect to see some. You know, if you're harvesting hay, of course you want some dry weather so you have good dry conditions. If you're harvesting peanuts, you get those peanuts out of the ground, they have to sit there and dry out for a few days before you can really strip them off the vines. And so you need to have a dry period. And fortunately, you know, in Georgia in the fall, we usually go through a fairly dry period, sometimes September, October. And the forecasts that we've seen for the next 4 weeks really indicate that we're likely to be drier than normal. So I think that'll be good from a harvest standpoint, as long as they've already got their irrigation and they're growing in. And it also depends, obviously, on the tropical season. If it really ramps up and the storms tend to go over Georgia this year, which is a big question mark, that's going to change things a little bit. The climate models can't really pick on those small-scale storms very well. But we do know that we don't expect a lot of them this year. I think one thing that farmers really are going to have to be aware of is that when we go into the winter pattern, for El Nino, winter means cool and wet. And in a strong El Nino that tends to come a little earlier than usual, we could see a pretty abrupt onset of wet conditions. Could happen as early as late October, more likely to happen in November. But it's a good reminder to farmers to not dawdle too long when they're getting stuff out of the fields this year, because once we go into that wet pattern, you can see it wet for a long time. And so, I mean, farmers need to be thinking, you know, how soon can I get this crop off in a timely fashion? The biggest effects of El Nino tend to be in the winter months, so November to March. And typically the strongest effects are in South Georgia, although in a strong El Nino like we're getting this year, and this may set records this year, we'll also see effects in northern Georgia as well. What we tend to see are a lot of gray skies, a lot of cloudy conditions and rain. It's not necessarily the really frigid cold that we would see in some other years, because it will be more cloudy and that'll keep up nighttime temperatures a little bit. But I think we'll probably go into the next growing season with an ample amount of water in the ground, which will be great, because often at the tail end of an El Nino, we go into the opposite phase, which is a La Nina, and La Nina in the southeast is associated more with dry conditions. So, you know, we're really going to hope we're going to build up that soil moisture this winter so that we get a good head start going into the next growing season.
All right. Well, a huge thanks to Pam Knox for providing us with her insight. And unfortunately, that is going to do it for this week's edition of the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Just a reminder, for all the latest ag info regarding food, great recipes, and what's happening down on the farm, be sure and check out our Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest pages. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of farming and the Farm Monitor Show.
Take care, everybody. We will see you next week right here on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.